Good afternoon. My name is Diego Sepulveda, and today I'm gonna read about coaching today's auditors, what caused reviewers to adopt a more developmental approach. Audit work paper review is a quality control mechanism intended to detect prepared errors and professionally develop papers. In this study, we experimentally investigate two factors that theory predicts affect the degree to which audit reviewers adopt a developmental approach: local versus international preparer office affiliation, and likely versus unlikely preparer recurrence. We find that reviewers adopt a less developmental approach for international preparers, but a more developmental approach for preparers likely to recur. The adoption of a more developmental approach not only results in more coaching via review, comment, but in associated with greater detection instead prepared errors. Taken together, our findings highlight the susceptibility of quality control effort in the global audit environment and identify recurrence as a potential intervention. Work paper reviewers help ensure audit quality both instrumentally and developmentally by detecting work paper prepares errors and by coaching prepares respectively. While auditing standards and external audit research examine determinants of reviewers' terms, instrumental role, recent audit standard emphasize the reviewer's longer-term developmental role. For example, ISA 220 emphasize supervision responsibilities to coach subordinates in ways that improve their skill and develop their competence. Despite recent regulator emphasis on the reviewer's developmental role, the audit literature is relatively silent about what contextual factors demotivate reviewers to professional develop prepares. We employ an experiment to examine how two contextual factors influence the reviewer's development approach, the office affiliation of the preparer, and the likelihood that the preparer will recur on the next year audit. We also consider whether the reviewer approach affects review quality, both the instrumental and developmental aspect, and how these aspects complement or undermine one another. Understanding the ability of the review process to function as a professional development mechanism is becoming increasingly important as audited teams become more global and standard-setted, focus on the supervision of international personnel. Approximately 80% of Fortune 500 company audits involve international auditor engaged by lead USA audit team, and more than half of public company audits performed by global network firms include the work of other auditors international office. The International Auditing and Assurance Standard Board and the PCAOB have recently focused on improving the supervision and review of international auditors by leading engagement teams, which increase the pressure to develop the professional skill of international preparers. Still, reviewers may not always be motivated to coach international preparers. Social identity theory suggests that office affiliation will influence who reviewers coach. Reviewers' perception of commonalities of difference between themselves and a preparer usually manifests as identifying more with local preparers and less with international preparers. The level of identification in turn likely influences the extent to which the reviewer is motivated to adopt a developmental approach. As such, we expect reviewers to focus more on the professional development of preparers in their local office as compared to preparers in international office. Given low workload, given workload pressure impose constraints on the amount of coaching that reviewers can provide. This may result in the development of preparers in the local office at the expense of international preparers. The office affiliation of the preparers is a contextual factor that often is not controlled by either the preparer or the reviewer, but really is largely determined by the client's operation. In contrast, the likelihood of preparer recurrence on the engagement is often influenced by the firm, the preparer, and or the reviewer. Although, although recurrence rates vary substantially amongst audience engagement. A prepared that is likely to recur should increase a reviewer's incentive to focus on professionally developing the prepared now to benefit to the reviewer in the future. As a result, recurrence slightly increases the developmental review approach and can assist firms in alleviating the effects of office affiliation, but motivating reviewers to coach international preparers. We also explore whether adopting a more developmental approach is associated with greater professional development and error detect in the actual review. It might be precarious to simultaneously use the review process as both a quality control mechanism to identify errors made by inexperienced professional and as a coaching mechanism designed to build them up professionally. While survey research shows, and as Gibbs and Trotman considers whether the dual purpose of the review process can be achieved simultaneously limit experimental research to do so. As part of our experiment, we examined whether the developmental and instrumental roles of the review can be complementary. If focusing on professional development can have a possible spillover effect on the detection of prepared errors or undermine one another. If focusing on professional development reduce error detection. We also consider whether and how these two roles of review impact reviewer assessment of prepared performance. To test our hypothesis and examine our research question, we conduct an experiment where 136 practicing audited seniors complete a work paper review of a prepared research for on-record liabilities. We manipulate the preparer's office affiliation, local or international, and the likelihood of prepared recurrence, likely or unlikely, in a 2 by 2 between participants design. Participants receive information about the engagement and the prepare followed by the prepared work paper and supporting evidence. While performing the review, participants could leave review comments for the preparer and make changes to the work paper. Following the task, participants explain their review approach and complete a post-experimental questionnaire. As predicted, as predicted, reviewers focus more on the professional development of preparers who are local instead of international. Also, regardless of office affiliation, reviewers are more apt to adopt a developmental approach when preparers are more likely to recur. In Portland, this developmental approach increases their provision of coaching orient review comments. These review comments in turn are possibly associated with greater reviewer detection of seed and prepared errors. Thus, the developmental and instrumental aspect of review, professional development, and error detection are complementary in our experiment. In addition, reviewers performance assessment and driven by their identification of errors and not by how much they choose the professional develop to they prepare thorough review comments. This study makes several important contributions that are relevant to detailed research, standard setter, regulator, and practitioners. First, our experimental study provides the first evidence of the complementary roles of the professional developing, prepares, and reviews error detection. And as a standard setter, revisit quality control standard. Field practice around both talent management and error identification are under regular scrutiny. Prior research offer evidence of the effects of prepared attributes on reviewed or error detection and demonstrates that good coaching leads to beneficial outcomes. However, prior research offers little guidance as to how the instrumental and developmental roles of the review process influence one another. We address this gap in the literature, contributing the theory building and demonstrating that there are conditions under which a long-term focus on prepared development is possibly associated with greater short-term error detection. First training should emphasize that on-the-job coaching is not always a separate task for the work paper review, and embedded coaching is work paper review can help uncover prepared errors. Second, this study is the first to consider how reviewers contribute to the poor audit quality observed on some engagement involving international auditors. Archival research examined the performance of international preparers or the overall quality of group audits. For example, Borg observed that the amount of work conducted by foreign component auditor is associated with a higher likelihood of misstatement. In contrast, we examined whether reviewers' quality control effort depend on the preparer's office. In doing so, we highlight how this key contextual factor can negate firm system of quality control, informing recent and ongoing standard setting. Third, we find evidence that anticipate prepare recurrence motivate reviewers to professionally develop prepares, regardless of whether the prepares are local or international. Theoretically, this finding underscore the opportunity to engage review quality by factoring recurrence into auditor engagement staffing decisions. Accordingly, to the extent that the human resource departments of audit firms can coordinate, prepares, and reviewers recurrent on both international and local engagement, audit quality should improve. Further, this finding highlights the somewhat limited view reviewers take regarding prepared development without incentives. Firms, firms should consider creating incentives for reviewers to development preparers. For example, firms could measure and assess such effort in the performance evaluation of reviewers. Muy bien. La lectura toca el tema sobre las auditorías. Las auditorías que presentan muchas veces a las empresas. Aquí en Colombia las conocemos como, pues, algunas empresas las conocemos como revisorías fiscales o en el tema, en el mundo ya pues financiero. Es un tema que, digámoslo así, es importante a nivel empresa porque de estas auditorías lo que buscan más que todo es ayudar a mejorar el funcionamiento de la empresa, tanto en el tema pues financiero, detectar errores, dar consejos pues equivalente a la solución de sus problemas que se encuentran en las auditorías. No voy a decir que todas las auditorías sean buenas porque hay algunas que digamos, lo buscan es rajar a los financieros y me ha tocado ver en mi experiencia laboral. Pero lo principal es que un auditor experimentado debe capacitar, debe entrenar a un futuro auditor en los mejores, digámoslo así, estándares y ser lo más transparente posible en el proceso que realizan, porque una auditoría mal hecha realmente puede llevar a cerrar una empresa, a tener problemas financieros y hasta inclusive problemas con la fiscales. Entonces es una carrera, un trabajo un poco complicado, un trabajo de mucha responsabilidad, porque es buscar que una empresa funcione, que una empresa solucione sus problemas y salga a flote. Entonces la responsabilidad es bastante grande. Muchas gracias.